Hey, it's Mr. Shrum, and I'm back again with a biology walkthrough tutorial. And we're going to look at human reproduction and development today. And the objective for now, we're going to use models to explain how human reproduction is controlled by anatomical and biochemical processes. So for the warm-up, for the first warm-up, we have the words infertility and impotence to describe conditions of the male reproductive system. Do the two words mean the same thing? Explain your answer. Well, no. Impotence means that a male experiences a decline in sexual function. Infertility refers to the ability of a man's sperm to fertilize an egg. A man who experiences impotency is not necessarily infertile, and a man who is infertile may still be able to have sexual intercourse. And for our next warm-up question, we're talking about perimenopause. Perimenopause describes the time period before menopause, and that is the end of a woman's reproductive years. And it starts a few years before menopause, perimenopause. Which condition would you expect to occur right before menopause or perimenopause? During perimenopause, the symptoms of menopause appear infrequently. This results in an irregular menstrual cycle instead of a complete stop of the menstrual cycle. So perimenopause, before menopause, you will see irregular menstrual cycles until menopause develops, and that is when it ends completely. But let's get into reproductive organs. Reproduction is important to the survival of all species. Some species have many offspring at one time, others have a few offspring in their entire life. Human reproduction occurs when the sperm of a male fertilizes an egg of a female. Human reproduction requires specialized organs, tissues, and biochemical processes, including hormones. Let's learn about the reproductive organs found in humans. Here's the male reproductive system. We have external and internal organs in the reproductive system. The penis is the male reproductive organ that is discharging sperm into the female reproductive system. It's a cylindrical structure, contains a tube called a urethra that opens at the tip. The urethra transports urine and semen outside the body. And it is the semen that contains sperm, which the body expels during sexual activity. The scrotum is a sac-like structure made of skin and connective tissue. It has two compartments, each housing a testes, which is the male sex organ. The scrotum protects the testes, and it regulates the temperature of the testes as well. The scrotum has special muscles that contract to raise it closer to the body, bringing the testes closer to body heat. And when these muscles relax, the scrotum descends, taking the testes away from body heat, which keeps them cooler. And here's a graphic. The testes are the primary male sex organs, and we call those gonads. They produce male sex cells called sperm. They also produce the male sex hormone testosterone. The male reproductive system consists of two testes that are in the scrotum. Each testes is an oval structure. Within each testes lie several hundred coiled tubules called seminiferous tubules. These structures produce the sperm. Sperm cells have a flagellum, and this helps their movement. The nucleus of the sperm cell is in the head region. Sperm requires a temperature lower than body temperature. Body temperature is about 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit or 37 degrees Celsius, and it needs to be under that to develop properly. Warm temperatures can interfere with sperm production. During fetal development, the testes form in the abdomen and then descend into the scrotum before birth. If the testes do not descend, they will be too warm for proper sperm production. And here's a cross-section of a human testes showing seminiferous tubules with sperm cells maturing in them. And you can see that here. The epididymis is a long coiled tube that lies outside and on the back of each testes. It stores sperm produced by the testes and helps mature the sperm. During sexual activity, the epididymis contracts and forces the sperm into another tube called the vas deferens. And this is a tube that carries sperm released by the epididymis to the urethra. At the urethra, the sperm mixes with secretions from the seminal vesicles to form semen. The seminal vesicles are two sac-like structures that open into the vas deferens. They produce a fluid that has the nourishment and enzymes sperm need to travel to the egg. These secretions make up 50% of the composition of semen. Semen also contains secretions from other glands. The prostate gland secretes a fluid that nourishes sperm. The bulbourethral gland secretes a fluid that neutralizes the acidic conditions that sperm encounter in the female reproductive tract. Sperm makes up only 2% to 5% of semen ejaculated from the penis. Fun fact. And now we're going to talk about infertility like we discussed in the warm-up question. When the male gonads do not produce sperm in sufficient quantity or quality, men may experience a medical condition called infertility. And this deficiency makes it difficult for a sperm to fuse with an egg. How do you treat infertility? Well, it depends what's causing the infertility. If it's due to an anatomical abnormality, such as undescended testes, surgery may be able to correct the condition. The surgery moves the testes from the abdomen into the scrotum. Sometimes a hormone imbalance, such as low testosterone, may cause infertility. Doctors can then prescribe medication to treat the condition. And other forms of treatment may include artificial insemination. This is a procedure in which sperm is injected directly into the female reproductive system. Another treatment is in vitro fertilization. That method is when a doctor removes sperm and eggs from the body and artificially fertilizes them in a laboratory. Once the egg is fertilized, they implant it in a woman's body. So those are a few ways to help with infertility. On the other hand, impotence describes a condition in which a man cannot get or maintain an erection. The medical term for this condition is erectile dysfunction. The inability to get an erection makes it almost impossible for the sperm to fertilize the egg. Men who are impotent are not infertile. Their sperm count and quality of semen is not necessarily deficient, and impotence has many causes. Some of them are age-related changes, disease, and the use of certain medications can lead to impotence. So, question: men who choose not to have children can opt for a birth control method called a vasectomy. The model shows the vasectomy procedure. So we have the blood supply, the vas deferens, the epididymis, and the testes, and the physician cuts and seals the vas deferens, as you can see right there. How does this procedure serve as a method of birth control? Sperm cannot be delivered to the urethra. The testes produce sperm and then store it in the epididymis. The epididymis ejects the sperm through the vas deferens into the urethra. Sperm exits the body from the urethra. The incision or cut to the vas deferens prevents sperm from passing from the testes to the urethra. Male hormones. Hormones are chemicals produced by the body that control various processes. Let's learn about the hormones that control sexual characteristics and processes in men. Testosterone is a steroid hormone, and that means it has a specific chemical structure similar to cholesterol. It's produced in the testes and helps in the production of sperm. It also controls the secondary sex characteristics that appear in puberty. That is the period leading to sexual maturity, in which physical changes take place in boys and girls. Some examples of these characteristics in boys include growth of hair on the face, a deepening of the voice due to longer vocal cords. Then we have the gonadotropin releasing hormone, or GnRH. The hypothalamus in the brain produces this hormone, and it acts on the pituitary gland and regulates the release of follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH, and luteinizing hormone, or LH. And let's see.
Luteinizing hormone, LH.
Luteinizing.
Both FSH and LH.
That is luteinizing hormone, LH. So both the follicle stimulating hormone and the luteinizing hormone travel from the pituitary to the testes. Let's discuss them briefly. So for FSH, it acts on sperm producing cells in the testes and promotes sperm production. LH acts on hormone producing cells in the testes and stimulates them to produce testosterone. A negative feedback mechanism controls the amount of male hormones in the body. And negative feedback is a self-regulatory system that helps oppose a change in the system. So, in the regulation of male hormones, an increase in testosterone in the blood acts as a signal for the hypothalamus to stop production of GnRH. As the level of GnRH drop, it signals the pituitary gland to lower the production of FSH and LH, and that lowers the production of testosterone. When testosterone levels get too low, the hypothalamus releases more GnRH, which eventually increases the level of testosterone. You can see a diagram here. All right, so another question. Hypogonadism is a condition that can happen in both men and women. The ovaries or testes fail to secrete the proper sex hormones. It can develop before or after puberty. What effects would you expect hypogonadism to have in boys and men? Explain your reasoning. Boys who develop the condition of hypogonadism may not go through puberty properly. This would occur because the testes would not produce the required amount of testosterone. This hormone is required for the developments that occur during puberty. Therefore, they may not develop some of the secondary sex characteristics or all of the secondary sex characteristics. The body also requires testosterone to produce sperm. Adult men with this condition may have lower than average sperm count, which may result in infertility. That was the male reproductive system. Now we're moving on to the female reproductive system. And this does not consist of prominently visible external structures. And most of the stuff is internal. The orifice or opening to the female reproductive system, called the vagina, is separate from the urethra. In females, the urethra only excretes urine. Let's look at some of these structures that make up the female reproductive system. First of all, the ovary. The female reproductive system consists of a pair of ovaries, which are the female gonads. They produce the female sex cells or eggs. Each ovary contains immature egg cells called oocytes. And to double check that, oocytes.
An immature egg cell in an ovary.
And these mature within the ovary. The ovaries alternate in releasing a single mature egg midway through a process called the menstrual cycle. The ovaries also produce two hormones called estrogen and progesterone, which regulate the menstrual cycle.
Fallopian tubes. Each fallopian tube is a tubular structure that connects.
Fallopian tubes connect the ovary to the uterus. When a girl reaches puberty, the ovaries release an egg. The ovaries release an egg on average once every 28 days. The egg travels through the fallopian tubes and can be fertilized if it comes in contact with sperm. If a sperm does not fertilize the egg, it continues to the uterus, and the body expels it during the menstrual cycle. The uterus, or womb, is the structure where the fertilized egg grows into a baby. The thick muscular walls help protect the developing fetus and helps in childbirth. A lining called the endometrium covers the inner wall of the uterus. The endometrium thickens and thins during different phases of the menstrual cycle. The thickened lining prepares the womb for the fertilized egg. If a fertilized egg does not implant, the lining sheds during the menstrual cycle. Cervix. The cervix is the narrow passage at the bottom of the uterus. It connects the uterus with the vagina, and it dilates at the end of pregnancy to allow for childbirth. The vagina is a tubular structure that connects the cervix with the outside of the body. It acts as a passage for the entry of the penis to discharge sperm. The vulva, the genitals or external structures of the female reproductive system, are called the vulva. And the vulva consists of two skin folds called the labia that protect the internal organs. The labia majora are the larger outer folds that enclose the smaller inner folds called the labia minora. The two labia minora meet at the top to form a small knob, which is called the clitoris. The clitoris is comparable to the penis in males. It's very sensitive and becomes erect on stimulation. A fold of skin called the prepuce covers the clitoris. The mons pubis, which is present in both males and females, is a rounded mound of fat covering the joint of the pubis bone. the mons pubis is more prominent in women. Female hormones. Now let's learn about the hormones that control sexual characteristics and processes in women. The hypothalamus of the brain releases GnRH, which stimulates the pituitary gland to release FSH and LH. These hormones stimulate the ovaries to produce the female sex hormones, estrogen and progesterone. Progesterone. Estrogen and progesterone. In women, FSH and LH also play an important role in the menstrual cycle. During puberty, estrogen levels increase in the body and develop the secondary sex characteristics in women. These characteristics include the development of breasts, the widening of the hips, and the first menstrual cycle. And here's the diagram for that. Infertility. In women, just as in men, infertility can happen for a number of reasons. Imbalances in hormones, disease, or abnormalities in anatomical structures can cause infertility. The treatment for infertility in a woman depends on the cause. They can use fertility medications to regulate menstrual cycles. A woman can also take medication to stimulate ovulation. Surgery can also correct abnormalities such as blocked fallopian tubes. A woman's uterus or cervix may interfere with the ability of sperm to fertilize the egg. And a woman can opt for in vitro fertilization or artificial insemination. Surrogacy is an option for women who have had their uterus removed or whose uterus is unable to support a pregnancy. In this method, the sperm and egg from the couple are fertilized in vitro and then placed in the womb of another woman with a healthy uterus. The baby develops in the surrogate woman's womb until birth. Another question. Endometriosis occurs when endometrial tissue, which normally grows inside the uterus, grows outside the uterus. Based on the model, what effects would you expect these growths to have on the female reproductive system and on fertility? So here, look at this diagram. What could this what are the effects this could have? Abnormal tissue growing on the ovaries might affect ovulation, making it harder or impossible for women to get pregnant. The extra tissue may cause pain since the tissue is growing in places it is not meant to be growing. All right, well, that's the first part of our walkthrough tutorial. And next time I will pick up at the menstruation and pregnancy part of this tutorial. But until next time, I will see you guys later. Have a good one and enjoy the rest of your week. All right, bye-bye.